You're probably wondering, what am I looking at right now? And I'm going to tell you. My name's Trisha, and this is my YouTube channel called Exploring the Paranormal with Trisha Brown. You may hear my parrot in the background doing her little bit of squawking. That's okay, she can do that. She may even try to come down off of her play structure and come into my camper. So if that happens, I'll deal with it then. Okay, so I have had some very interesting experiences in my life, starting around the age of about 2.5 or 3. I don't exactly remember it when it started. I know that it was after I went from my crib to my first big girl bed. And so a lifetime of very interesting spiritual, paranormal, mystical type experiences. Most of them have been beyond amazing, beyond helpful, super fascinating. Experiences with the Sasquatch people, which I like to call them the tree people. Spirits, spirit guides, angels, archangels, the higher realms of spirit. Some possible ghosts or people in spirit who I've gotten to know. Just different experiences over the years. And I've been on many podcasts talking about my experiences. I was on an episode of a silly show called Stalked by a Ghost in 2013. And so what we're looking at here is a diagram that I drew of when I teleported in 2019, and I think it was maybe it was like maybe, I don't know, July, August, September, somewhere in there of 2019, when I was in Savannah, Georgia, on the outskirts of Savannah, Georgia, on the outskirts of Berwick, on the outskirts of Savannah, Georgia, in a very large acres of forest in this little nature preserve called Blue Sky. And so I'm going to go into detail here, but the reason why I wanted to do this is because on a podcast that I was on, I sent a picture of this to the guy that has the podcast, and he showed this picture for just a very short amount of time, and I was wanting him to keep this up for a long time so that I could tell the story as it's still there. So I'm going to do it for myself because I really want this. This is like, I'm going to say, the most profound experience that I've ever had. So I'm going to use my pointer, which is this stick. Okay, so I'm going to do my best to make this make sense for everybody. Okay, so this is the country highway. I was coming from the left, going to the right, and this is forest. So as I'm driving, on the right side of me is just lots and lots of forest all along the road for a while, to the left and to the right. And so I parked here in the parking lot at Blue Sky Nature Preserve. And the reason why I went here this day is because I wanted to see if I may hear vocals up in this area. I wanted to go to this spot up in here, off trail, stand around here, which that blue dot is where I was standing after I went off trail and went around that, where that area is there. So that would be maybe, let's say 30 to 40 feet from the trail. Not really, really far. I couldn't see the trail because there was trees and there was a slight uphill embankment. So I couldn't, like with my eyes, see the trail from where I was standing. But it was not far away. So I saw a lot in this the trails. As you see, you could go up this way and you can go right, and there was trails all around, you know, in that way, over off this way, and then it would link back to right here, or you can come up this way and go that way on the trail, go around and then come back to this way. Or you could go up here, go on this trail here, and it would come down like you can see kind of like a horseshoe shape. And then you could come down here if you wanted, come back on this trail right here, and come back to the parking lot. So I hope that makes sense. And I wrote, as you see, forest, trees, lots of trees, forest. And then over here on this side is outside the nature preserve. There's no trails on this side, but it's just still forest and trees and land and underbrush and all that stuff, okay? And then the orange lettering, it says ditch. So there was a little ditch between the trail here and the highway. Okay, so I started learning about the Sasquatch people, the tree people, in 2018 when I went to Mena, Arkansas. And I was taught about how they go to a specific area in the woods called the nursery, that it's a sacred, protected spot, that you're not allowed to go there anymore on this couple's land. And it's the land is called Board Camp Crystal Mine. And so I learned that the older tree people take the younger tree people to this area of the forest and teach them how to make the markers, to make the saplings and the branches and the trees into markers, so that when they're traveling from here to there, that the markers mean, you know, communication to each other. And so I was like, I had no idea. And it really opened my eyes. And so when I came back to Georgia, it took me some months. So that was, let's say, August of 2018. And I can't remember if it was later, like maybe a few months into that year of 2018, when I saw my first, like a trunk of a tree up in a tree that was sitting perpendicular up in the tree, that it didn't make sense. Like there's no way that anything could have got that tree, that big long trunk of a tree, up in the tree. And then, I don't know, I think possibly the beginning-ish of 2019 is when I found, I'll have to look back, because if you go back on my YouTube channel, I'm walking in this forest. I'm walking on these trails, and I'm actually up around maybe this section in here. And I'm talking actually about when I have seen spirit animals. And as I'm walking around and looking, I start noticing some very interesting ways that he had described when he showed me in Mena, Arkansas at Board Camp Crystal Mine. One of the things that he showed me was like a sapling, a small tree that could be even like, let's say 10 feet tall or under. And the top of the tree is pulled down and it's making an arch shape. And then there's something holding the tree down, like a big log, some sort of long branch, big trunk of some sort of trunk of a tree or something to hold the end of that little sapling down to create an arch. And I started noticing that out there, and I talk about it. So I know that it'll show the date on that video. And so it could have been 2018, it could have been 2019, I can't remember. But I saw out in here, out in all this nature preserve, different ways that these trees and branches and just were following along with what he taught me of them creating markers with the trees. And other people call it like them doing tree art or different reasons why they are arranging and rearranging in the way that they are manipulating the trees. I started noticing it. And I have some more story to tell about it all. But basically, I wanted to learn about them in my own way, through my own interest in nature and shamanism and connecting to nature and spiritual side of things. And so I had gone out into the woods here another time. I went down this trail here, off this way, and I noticed a way I could go off trail, and I went into an area where it felt like I was in a gathering area, where like if you were to go to a park and a group of you would be hanging out in a gazebo. So I was standing in an area off trail where under these little trees that it made me feel like that, like I was in a gathering spot. And I've had that happen a few times where I have felt that I was in a gathering spot or actually sort of standing in someone's family room in the trees. So I stood there and I talked to them and I was telling them, thank you for being with me in my life. That's a whole nother story, me realizing their way of letting me know that they've been around me in my life. And I said, I would love to know you. Will you teach me? I want to help you, etc. So there'd be times where I'd feel compelled to go. Like, okay, I feel like going out here. And so this particular day, I wanted to go out here, like I was saying. I wanted to go a little bit before dusk, to get out there, to park, walk out. Maybe it was going to be like about a 10-minute walk, not far. About a 10-minute walk out here. And so another time I had been out here before that, I had gone out here with a friend who had seen a video of mine on YouTube, and he was like, I'm in Savannah too. I'm like, oh, really? And so I took him out here, and he really agreed that there was lots of evidence of them out here, like tree moving evidence. And so I had already started to hear like the owl calls, and I had heard 2 times already vocaling of them, what I call the man yell. And so we had done a little experiment up here where we found a bucket and we put a bunch of branches in it, and he wanted to see if the branches would get moved around. So for whatever reason, I felt like I want to go back up here again. I had been up here more than a few times and just kind of stood out here and hung out. So I brought my parrot. I have a blue and gold macaw. She was with me on my shoulder, and I brought my dog Lucy, and she was just walking off leash with me. So as we're coming up here, and here is where the trail, like where it goes off trail, and there's actually, what I saw is this brown is a stick. That brown color, that brown lines is a stick that was sticking up out of the ground. It was like stuffed into the ground, the stick. It wasn't growing there. Somebody had stuffed this stick into the ground right there. And I had never noticed that before. And I went, wow, that's very interesting, because that's exactly where I want to go off trail. So what's that about? Anyways, so I went off trail. It's just trees and pine needles and dry leaves and dirt. So I stood right about here and hung out with my parrot and my dog. She was kind of wandering around me. And then it was very quiet. It was very quiet out there. And then dusk started coming. And then the insects started singing in the trees. It was, let me just say, another part of this, that's an important piece of this, is that when I was getting ready to come out here that day, I felt like wearing my rain boots. And I have been into hiking and trail running and backpacking and all that for many years, and I have never one time, other than this one time, felt like wearing my rain boots. And so what I was thinking to myself is the possibility of feeling like up here, maybe I'd feel like exploring up here farther off trail. And on this trail right here, as you're cruising around, farther inland or farther inside the woods, there would be standing water areas that, like, because they were lowlands, so you call them like the swampy areas. So I thought maybe I'll feel like walking around in some of the standing water areas. So as I was walking in, it was a dry day. There was no raining. There was no standing water anywhere where I was. It was very dry. And I've been out here. I've walked around on all the trails that you can walk on. It's not a very big place. Many times. I know it pretty well. So I hadn't walked in here because it's just trees. Like, I've just stayed on the trails here. Had never gone over here on this side. Trail that comes around here, all that. Gone off trail over here, like I said. So I am standing out here in the blue dot area, okay? And so, like I said, it's pretty quiet. The insects are coming out. It's starting to be dusk, and I thought, I'm going to call in a pizza. I'm going to get my pizza or call in my pizza, and then, so I'm like, okay, I called in my pizza. So now it's time to start walking back. It'll take me about 10 minutes or so to get back to the car, and then I'll just drive back down this way to Savannah and go pick up my pizza. So I start walking towards the trail. Instead of going back, maybe kind of coming around back and going exactly where I went in, I decided instead to just go straight down towards the trail. And right around in here, this orange dot, is where I teleported. But I didn't know that. I didn't know I teleported. It was completely, it gets weird. It gets weird. Okay, so I know that I was, because of the fact normally I would come in and out like right here, I was more used to what the trees around here look like and the shrubs and, etc. So this way was a little bit less me knowing, meaning it wasn't familiar as much. But so somewhere around here, I ducked down under some pine boughs. And so under the pine boughs, there was some thick pine needles. And then I ducked down under some more pine boughs. And I went slightly down an embankment to come out, supposed to be coming out onto the trail. So in my mind, I'm thinking that that's where I'm at. Okay, so I come down here and there's no trail. And that's all I did was walk straight down. Where is the trail? And then people have asked me about this, if I lost time. And it was really interesting because I don't feel like I lost time because I was able to go pick up my pizza and they weren't like closed and, or they weren't like, where have you been? It's been hours. It wasn't like any of that. But here's the part. Okay, so as I come down in here and I'm sort of just milling around all in here because I'm like, this doesn't look anything like, where's the trail? And then I just know that it just seemed like that it got dark very fast. It seemed like all of a sudden it was pitch black out there and I was tripping out. And I know like around here, I was thinking I was around here and I called the friend that I was telling you about earlier and I'm like, I'm lost. I don't understand. How am I lost? And then there was standing water. There was a really tall, like a really long, I don't know, 3 foot in diameter down tree. It didn't make sense. I was tripping out. I had my parrot on my shoulder and it was pitch black out. And I was trying to use my phone to see, but it was just more like blinding me. And I'm like, where's Lucy? Where's Lucy? Okay, there she is. She showed up, from the darkness into near me. I had to climb over the tree that was down, and then there was just standing water, like 3 to 4 inches of water. So I'm thinking I'm right here. I'm thinking I must be right here, but this doesn't make any sense. And I'm thinking, well, did I somehow, as I'm walking this way, did I somehow go more this way? It just didn't make, I have a very good sense of direction. I've been hanging out in the woods for a lot of years of my life, in the country, in California, and I've traveled around the States. I've in the mountains of California. I have a very good sense of direction. So it was just very odd. And so since it was now pitch black out, and that's the thing, normally when you're out there, it's a gradual process of it going from dusk to the sun going down and then becoming darker and darker and darker. And just somewhere in where I'm like, where am I? This is so weird. It became pitch black. And so I could see the lights through the trees, which I was still thinking I'm looking this way. I'm still thinking I'm looking straight down this way to the highway of the cars going back and forth, of their headlights. I could see the headlights. So I tried to stay as calm as I could, and I'm like, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just go straight down this way and maybe veer slightly left as I'm walking. And then maybe I will hit over here and find the parking lot. That's what I was thinking I was doing. So I'm going to aim this way, straight for the highway, but maybe veer slightly left and maybe get to the parking lot first. Or I'm going to hit into this trail or the highway. I wasn't sure. I just know I was going to go this way towards the highway and then get back on the trail. Okay? So, as I'm walking, what really happened, okay, so I'm going to just say, I came out thinking I was here. But really what happened is, from somewhere in here, I went from here to here. So I was walking towards this section, so somewhere in here, I don't know exactly where, but I went boing and ended up somewhere here. And then I started walking down straight. And when I came out, so this says outside nature preserve, forest full of trees. And then, like I was saying, like somewhere in here, there was this really tall, 3 feet in diameter down tree laying on the ground and there was standing water. So I come out, and so now I'm right here, and I start walking this way thinking I'm over here. So I got onto the ditch, started walking this way, and I could not believe my eyes when I saw this side of the trail. Okay, so when I describe this on the podcast, I explain it. It sort of looked like this trail is like a horseshoe. So I ended up coming out on this side of the horseshoe of the trail. I was like, whoa, what? I hope this makes sense. I want this to really make sense to people, because I wasn't like wandering aimlessly all around in here, and then I got lost, and then, then I somehow came out over here. No, that's not how it went at all. I was literally just walked. That's where I was standing, where the blue dot is. Walked a little bit, like 30 feet? Somewhere in there. 30 to 40 feet, 20 feet. I don't know exactly when it happened. Somewhere in there. I definitely did not ever find this trail that time. Like when that happened, I did not ever find this trail. I was way over here. So I came out, walked a little bit. There's the end of the trail. I could not believe it. I was tripping out. I'm like, this is truly reality right now happening. I couldn't believe it. And I was so thankful that somehow my dog ended up showing up with us. I don't get it. She wasn't attached to a leash. My bird was on my shoulder, and they also were not scared at all. I mean, they've been with me in numerous interesting experiences. So I got onto this trail right here. It's more now inside the park, and then I walked back to my car, drove out of here, went and got my pizza. So that's the story of me teleporting with my animals. And so I hope that makes sense. Ask questions if you have any, please. And if there's anyone out here that is also teleported, please share with me. Let's talk about this. Let's have a conversation. Let's do a video together. I don't know. I want to talk to more people. I want to talk to other people who've had experiences like this, because this is for real. No joke. It happened. And like I said, I have a very good sense of direction, but like when I was thinking I'm flailing around in here, I mean, it was like so dark out. I couldn't see anything. And so I had to, and so okay, I'm going to tell you. I feel like I was teleported. Okay, two things could happen, I feel. Either I went through a portal, we went through a portal that ended up over here. and then came out. And then did somehow my dog Lucy get to the spot where the circular portal is to enough to then come to end up in the portal with us after that? Or because I had been talking to the tree people and saying, will you teach me, will you show me? And they have been. Did they teleport us in the sense of showing me this is a way that we travel? We just go, because that's what spirit can do. Spirit can go from here to there. And in my progression with putting it together, when people would say, have you heard of Missing 411? Have you heard of David Paulides? Have you read Ron Moorhead's... Moorhead? Is that his last name? Ron Moorhead? His book. And I'm like, no, because I want to share my way, how it happened for me. And I don't want there to be oh, you're just saying that because that's what you read or that's what you heard. I'm like, no, I didn't know anything about any of that at the time. And when I felt comfortable with the way I wanted to continue with the studies of it and learning, then I would, find out about Paulides and Ron Moorhead. And so I feel like the first thing I thought of when I was even giving it any thought of the Sasquatch people is that they have to be interdimensional, multidimensional, and can cloak. And they have shown me in many ways of them being interdimensional, multidimensional. And so were they giving me this opportunity and teleported me and my animals to show me how they travel if they want to. And another thing I want to say is when people, people can think about it however they want. But the thing I want to say is if, I'm flesh and blood and I feel like they're flesh and blood, but they also have these abilities. So I'm flesh and blood and I teleported and they teleport and they can come in and out of dimensions. And I have seen the first time I had a sighting, he was partially materialized, and that's it's a whole nother story. But anyways, I wanted to share that. Let me know if this makes sense. If you can see clearly what I'm describing, let me know. Thanks. Bye.